In this video, I'm going to talk a bit about the risks of delegating Google or Dropbox privileges to other web or mobile apps. Extending the built-in functionality of cloud apps is often useful, but can be dangerous, as we saw with the fake Google Docs fish on May the 3rd. Here's a website used by a number of people at St. Olaf and Carleton. The stated purpose is to copy files from Google Drive to Dropbox. It never asks for either your Google or your Dropbox password, which is a good thing. But in order for it to work, it needs full access to both. Taking a quick look at the site itself, it makes money from ads, which is kind of neutral. It means that they haven't been revoked from advertising networks. The site is not encrypted. If it was encrypted, it would have this little padlock icon. So let's try to use it. So select files and folder from Google Drive. We need to log in and authorize. So far, nothing risky, nothing bad has happened yet. Popping that open shows this is the legitimate accounts.google.com cross-authorization dialog. So far, nothing bad has happened. This link is always safe to click. It tells you a little bit more about the developer, gives you an email address and where it's going to go. Clicking on this does not in itself give away anything other than your name and email address to the other site. Here's where things start to get risky. On many websites where you sign into Google, you're never going to see this page. For example, Asana, if you log into cndown.com, those sites, they aren't actually asking for any special privileges. All they need to know is this is a legitimate person, this is their email address, just to save you from having to save yet another password. Those are all good things. I encourage you to use sign in with Google for those things. This app is different. In addition to knowing your name and email, it wants to view and manage files in your Google Drive. What does that mean? It means you can create, access, update, and delete native Google documents without restriction and without any limitation forever. That's a little bit risky. This is just a user interface thing. If you go to Google Drive, it adds a menu item, which can be handy. Some legitimate apps do that. That in itself is not risky. This is a thing that is potentially pretty risky. Now, if you trust the developer, I mean, that's what this app is for. But do you trust the developer? We'll get to that later. If we decide we want to trust this site, let's allow it. It's going to pop open a little dialog saying what files you want to select. Then we want to save it to Dropbox. It's going to do essentially the same thing for Dropbox as it did for Google. You need to sign in. I'm going to skip that part because it's basically the same deal. Anytime you sign into Dropbox to give authorization to another app, you are giving that app unlimited authorization to act on your behalf in Dropbox, which is potentially scary or potentially useful, depending on the trustworthiness of the developer. So, as I said at the very beginning, is the page encrypted? No. That's one potential little sign of trustworthiness or about how much money the developers put into the site. So who's the developer again? We saw a little bit when we poked through here, but there are other ways to research the domain. So this is cloudtransfer.nspot.net. Let's look at the top level website. So this is www.nspot.net, completely blank. That's probably not a good sign. It's owned by JKK, who resides in Nigeria, and the domain is registered in Korea. Now, I wouldn't ethnic profile websites. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I've actually hired students from Nigeria. They're great. But this is potentially an indicator of untrustworthiness or evasiveness. myweboftrust.com. They haven't even heard of this. No one else has visited here before that uses mywot. Let's search for kind of a more general website to see what you would see. So CNN, fake news site, 92% people consider trustworthy. This is what you would expect to see on a legitimate developer site. This is not what you would expect to see, and therefore I would call the site not the most trustworthy in the world. Now, I'm not saying that this site is definitely bad. It could be just one guy who published a useful script, but I wouldn't associate my Google account with this. I'm using a test account I made for just this purpose. It might do what it says to do. It probably does. It might do other things. When you associate your account with this app, it has unlimited access to Google Drive, unlimited access to Dropbox forever. So that's a lot of information, especially the ability to research websites. Nobody's going to do that. That's fine. All this specialized stuff about NSPOT who is, I don't expect most people to do that. So what are the bottom line 2 things that you need to know? Number 1 thing that I hope people should know about is accounts.google.com. This is sort of a central clearinghouse for all things Google security. They've got this wonderful security checkup thing over here on the left that does several things for you. It verifies your recovery information, done. Checks recent security events. If you think that your account has been used by somebody else, you can look in here. It shows the location of recent events account. That's great. Check connected devices. Hey, we're logged on from Mac. We're not logged in from elsewhere. That's good. Account permissions. This lists applications that are authorized to use your Google account. If you decide that Google Drive's files to Dropbox is dodgy, you say remove. The bottom line is you should know about accounts.google.com or call the help desk if you want something of that sort. The second thing that everyone should know is what I said before. So I've actually denied access to Google, so I can start over from scratch here. So select files to folder from log in and authorize. Up to this point, you're safe. You haven't done anything to give away access to your account. Click here. This is also safe. If you were logging into cn.com or other things that just all they want to know is your name and email, this screen would not pop up. Danger zone. This screen, if you see this screen, stop and think. Look at the scope of things they're asking for. Make sure that you actually trust the developer of the site and that it's the site you intend to go to. Most of the time, it's going to be an app you actually want. Go ahead and do this. But if you get a weird email from Mailinator at HHHH and you're not sure what the attachment is, you probably shouldn't continue because you've just given away access to your account. Thanks.